Welcome to everyone. If you don't know me, I am Debbie Kaner Goldich, and I'm the president of Women's League. It's so wonderful to be together with everyone today. And I wanted to introduce our executive director, Rabbi Ellen Wollens-Fields, who's doing the princess wave, and our great staff person, Karen Bellina, who is in the box with the pink Women's League logo. Karen's going to run tech today. And we couldn't do any of our programs without Karen. And so we thank Karen for being with us this afternoon. I have the great pleasure of talking to you a little bit about what's going on in Women's League this week, just this week. If you receive our newsletter on Monday, Women's League Week, you saw that we had an entire month of January of programming. And if you missed out on that month because you don't get the newsletter, when we open up the chat, please put your name and your email in the chat, and I will make sure that you are subscribed, because we had 27 programs this month. And if you missed them, you really missed out on an opportunity for learning and engagement. I do want to call your attention to two very special programs that we're having this week, besides today, which is extremely special. So on Thursday, this Thursday, January 27th at 7 p.m., we are having Women's League Reads, which is our own unique book club. And what makes this book club unique is that we interview the author. And the name of the book that everyone read, and the author is Alyssa Friedland, and the name of the book is Last Summer at the Golden Hotel, which is about the Catskills. So you still have time to read the book. You don't have to read the book, but you need to register for the program so we can send you the link. And it is on Women's League Week. The second program that I wanted to announce is on Sunday, January 30th, this Sunday at 12 noon East Coast time. And it's called Who Owns the Western Wall? Something that's a very timely discussion right now. And Women's League has partnered with the Women of Reform Judaism and the Women of the Wall. And you will hear from speakers from all of the organizations. You'll hear from the executive director of Women of the Wall. You'll hear from the executive directors of Women's League, Rabbi Ellen, and also Women of Reform Judaism. So please join us Sunday, January 30th at 12 noon. Also, you need to register for that, and the registration is on Women's League Week. If you don't get Women's League Week, put a little note in the chat, and when we turn back on the chat, I will make sure that you get the information so you can register for both of those programs. And so today we're here for our continuing series taught by Lois Silverman. Lois has done this forever and ever. And those of us in Women's League who know Lois for a very long time know that this is just something that she loves to do as a volunteer. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about Lois Silverman. She earned a BA and an MA in English literature from Montclair State University. She's taught American and English literature, writing, and media studies. And she's presently teaching film studies at SUNY Poly, which is Utica in Rome, way up there in the snow belt. And I'm proud to say that she's now moved to Pennsylvania near me, where it's not so snowy. And so in terms of Women's League, Lois has held many, many positions. She's been Sisterhood President, Branch President. She's been Women's League Program Music Chair, Youth and School Chair, Internet Services Chair. And now I'm very proud to say that in my administration, she's Women's League's Communication Chair. And if you are ever looking for a script for an installation and you go back to the ones that were on the website for a while or that are in your closet now, they probably have been written by Lois. I love to say that because I think she's written over, 200, Lois, something like that. So I do want to welcome Lois and tell you, Lois, that we thank you so much for doing this. You make so many people happy and laugh when you teach, and it brings us back to a wonderful time in life when we weren't worrying and we weren't stressed about the pandemic. So Lois, take it away.
Thank you, Debbie. Let's hope this works here. Can you see my Kinda? Can you say yes? Shake yes. Okay, good. Now let's go. Let's hope we can. Now you can see my. I'm gonna take 1 minute to get rid of some of this stuff. I say this every time because I can't get rid of it while I am in the meeting and not sharing my screen. So here we go. And now we're going to start the program. And of course, it's called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And we're going to talk about the Jewish connections to the movies of the 1930s, the musicals specifically. And now I'm going to say this, and I hope you understand that the reason I have posted this. In the past, people didn't understand why I spent some time giving background. But background is important. You have to put things into context. Therefore, you have to know a little bit about history, science, social trends in order to study the arts. You have, with a strong understanding of this context, you understand why something was created, how it was created, and you also understand its context in the historical development of whatever art that is. Now, today we're going to be talking, as we will in 2 other sessions, on movies, and specifically Jews in movies. Now, between 1881 and 1924, over 2,500,000 East Europeans were propelled from their native lands by persecution and the lack of economic opportunity. These people came to the Golden Medina. Now, most settled in cities where they clustered in districts close to downtowns, joined the working class, spoke Yiddish, and built strong networks of cultural, spiritual, voluntary, and social organizations. And the rise of the film industry coincided with this Jewish immigration. Now, films of the silent era had far-reaching effect on these immigrants who enjoyed silent films, even though they didn't understand English. They were relatively inexpensive, and they were in their neighborhood. Further, movies were instruments of Americanization of these immigrants. Here's an example. In 1910, 26 million Americans, that's 20% of the total American population, attended movie theaters weekly. Now, in Manhattan, 25% of the residents there frequented weekly 123 film houses. Now, there were a third of those film houses, movie palaces, theaters, were located on the Lower East Side, where mostly Jews lived. There were other immigrants on the Lower East Side, but mostly Jews. Here's a picture of the Claremont Theater on 3338 Broadway and its grand opening. And this is just what a theater would look like. Now, in 1894, the first movie was a sound movie, and it was done by Edison's laboratory. Now, Thomas Edison thought of movies as an extension of his phonograph. So let's take a look at this phenomenon. Now, that was a restored, long lost clip. They just found it and restored it. Now, the experimentation to find the right way to achieve sound synchronized with movement was ongoing from then on. And here are a couple of the various ways that they tried to have sound. The most important, relevant systems were the Vitaphone and the sound on film technique. Now, Jewish entertainers from vaudeville and Broadway helped in the development of sound movies, or as we call them, talkies. For example, Eddie Cantor. His eye-rolling song and dance routines eventually led to his nickname, Banjo Eyes. And this clip that we're going to see is from A Few Moments with Eddie Cantor, and it was shot using Lee DeForest's sound on film phonofilm process in late 1923. By the way, Lee DeForest developed the vacuum tube that led to popularization of radio and eventually television. Now, this clip is said to be the earliest experiment with sound on film, and we'll talk a little bit later, maybe next week, about Eddie Cantor and his talkies.
Mr. Olson, would you play something for Eddie? Do that, will you? I may look simple, but I want you to. I'm full of knowledge. I'm right at home with brainy men, and then my wisdom I show. But when there's clever girls around, I get up and go. Those educated babies are a bore. I'm going to say what I've said many times before. Oh, the dumber they come, the better I like them, 'cause the dumb ones know how to make love. Oh, Weisenheimer has you meet her folks when you call. The brainless baby always keeps you down in the hall. Oh, the dumbbells I met have won beauty prizes. They look like angels sent from above. A clever girl will want to know if you mean to wed. The dumb ones never think of looking that far ahead. That's why the dumber they come, the better I like them, 'cause the dumb ones know how to make love. Oh, the dumber they come, the better I like them, 'cause the dumb ones know how to make love. The smart girls speaking Greek and other languages too, but the dumb girls only languages who's putchy as you. All the saps that I've met have won beauty prizes. They look like angels sent from above. You start squeezing clever girls, you're soon on the shelf. But when you're with dumb doors, you can just be yourself. All the dumber they come, the better I like them. 'Cause the dumb ones know how to make love. Mr. Olson, again, won't you play a little something for Eddie? Georgie Porgy is a guy who is very bashful and so shy. The ladies prize him, they idolize him. You can find him most anywhere in a great big cozy Morris chair, idly looking at the ceiling while some girlie is appealing. Oh, gee, Georgie, whenever I'm with you. Oh, gee, Georgie, I don't know what to do. You never tease or hug or squeeze like Johnny or Joe. You look at me and then, oh, gee, I get so, I don't know. Oh, gee, Georgie, what can it be? When you're around, I get so excited. You're not handsome like a statue, but each time that I look at you, oh, gee, Georgie, oh, gee. Oh, gee, Georgie, whenever I'm with you. Oh, gee, Georgie, I don't know what to do. You talk to me of poetry and music and art, but you're not here for that, my dear. I wish you'd start. Have a heart. Oh, gee, Georgie, what can it be? When you're around, I get so excited. My head should be just where your chest is. Kiss me, hot lips, I'm asbestos. Oh, gee, Georgie, oh, gee.
Another example of vaudevillians who helped make sound was Joe Weber, who was born Joseph Morris Weber, and Lou Fields Moses Schoenfeld. And just you can see them on the right. They inspired Neil Simon's Sunshine Boys. At least that's what some critics think. And they were one of the most popular comedy vaudeville duos near the end of the 19th century. In 1923, Weber and Fields reunited for another Lee DeForest phonofilm sound on film short, where the team recreated their famous pool hall routine. By the way, Lou Fields was the father of Dorothy Fields. She was a lyricist who wrote the words for The Way You Look Tonight, A Fine Romance, On the Sunny Side of the Street, Don't Blame Me, Pick Yourself Up, I'm in the Mood for Love, and the 1966 song Big Spender. And we'll also explore her later.
Hey, all you horses. I want to thoroughly disturb you. The fellow what gets the money wins the game.
Well, that you heard me now.
Uh-huh.
Now back up,
Well, who made it up? You should be the firstest.
Well, I suggested the game.
Well, I don't accept your suggestions.
You don't want my suggestion?
I should be the firstest.
Well, I won't argue, we'll choose for it.
Fair is
You're
fair.
always kicking and hollering and fighting.
I win the draft.
Here, what did you bring? You didn't win anything.
No?
You shoot first, that is all.
Oh, I'm the firstest.
Hey, don't worry about the money. I'll take care of that.
Not if I know it.
Back. You got to keep away 3 feet from the table.
3 feet?
Yes, sir.
Well, when I'm close up, I'm 3 feet away.
Well, that's your misfortune. I can... Back.
Come on.
Here. Put the ball down
No,
here.
put it up there.
Put the ball down here.
No, leave it there. I want to hit him.
You must always commence from the pimple. You see the pimple here?
That's a pimple?
That's the pimple, yes. Start from there.
Oh, it's going to be a fight. Keep your seat.
Oh, I'm not worried. Don't worry about it.
Uh-huh.
Now, remember,
What?
you got to bust the balls before you break them.
Oh, you got to break him before you bust him.
Exactly.
I'm going to give him a good connect.
Well, give him that.
With
Give
the
him here.
Huh?
Oh, you silly you.
What?
You must always shoot with the end but the sponge is on, you see?
That's a sponge?
That's a sponge, yes.
No, that's very tight.
Well, it's made from rope. You can't help that now.
Uh-huh.
Now. Are you ready?
Sure.
Now, what are you playing?
Huh?
What are you playing?
Pool, ain't it?
Of course you're playing pool, but ball are you playing?
Oh, you got to play a ball?
Don't you understand?
Not yet.
There are 15 balls on the table.
Uh-huh.
And every ball has got a number on it.
Yeah.
You have got to call out one certain number to go into a certain pocket.
Uh-huh.
If any other ball goes in, then I get it. Remember that now?
You get it.
Yes, sir.
No, well, what do I get?
Bad luck.
Yeah.
Well, it's all right.
Here.
Right.
What ball you play?
I play the round one.
The round one?
Yeah.
What's the matter with you? Them is all round.
But this one is rounder than the others.
I like to see myself.
Put the ball-
Now, look at you.
Look,
What's the matter with you?
I didn't agree with you now.
Yeah.
I need the balls alone.
I will if I like.
I give you one, you'll be murdered if you don't break the table.
Don't push.
Come on, you.
Oh,
Activate
no.
you keep away from here.
You can make me.
I'm telling you, keep away from the
Oh,
table. that's all.
tell you,
Now, you
yeah.
see what's going to happen if you don't now.
You're going to have
You need the balls alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buffet number one.
Bluffing, that's all you can say. Bluff.
Yeah, I left my sleeve up at you.
You laugh the wrong way if you keep on talking. I'm telling you now.
Yeah, I'm afraid of you,
You
ain't
bet
I?
you're afraid. You see.
Yeah, I'm running, standing still.
You run. You keep on talking. You see what's going to happen now.
You're going to keep on
Well,
talking.
you keep it up. That's all I'm telling
Freak
you
hungry
now.
yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go and sit down.
I ain't tired.
I'll make you tired. I'll make you good and tired.
Oh, you did.
You'll be so tired you're going to fall down. That's what you're going to do.
You fall down
But
with
you
me.
keep up on it. You see.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you now. You keep it up. That's all you. I think you now again you.
Try that side.
Yeah, try that. You go away now.
I will if I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you don't get it.
I hope I do get it.
I hope you don't get it.
I hope I do get it.
Well, I hope you don't get it.
Well, I hope I do get it.
Well, I hope my hope comes out.
I'll tell you, I'll do the jail for you. You see what I'm in the jail, they put me in your account. You activate you. You take the whole pleasure from the game that you're arguing and fighting you. You see now.
I see, yeah.
You see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the jail, I'll go for you.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you cigars.
I don't want a cigar. I don't want anything from you.
Yeah.
You just keep quiet, that's all.
I keep quiet if I like.
You like now.
Yeah, hope you miss it.
You hope I miss it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the first full-length sound movie, Talkie, was a Jewish musical. And of course, it was Al Jolson in The Jazz Singer. Just a couple interesting facts about The Jazz Singer. Eddie Cantor was offered the part of the jazz singer only after George Jessel refused the part. And when Eddie Cantor refused the part, it then went to Al Jolson. Now, the movie was released on October the 6th, 1927 by Warner Brothers, and it was based on a play and the short story called The Day of Atonement by Samson Raphaelson. And it was about a young Jew named Jakey Rabinowitz, who was really based on Al Jolson. Now, it's the first synchronized dialogue in a full-length feature film. Now, a full-length feature film is usually defined as like 70 minutes or longer. And this was done through the system called Vitaphone, which was a system of recording sound on a disc, a record, as in Edison's idea. And it was synchronized between the picture and the Victrola. And it featured Al Jolson singing and 2 scenes containing speech. Now, only 350 spontaneously spoken words were in this film. Now, the first spoken words in any film, and in this talkie, in a full length film, that is, was by Jack Robbins, who of course was Jakey Rabinowitz. And of course played by Jolson. And the words were, wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I'll tell you, you ain't heard nothing. You want to hear Tootsie? All right, hold on. Now, I don't do a very good Al Jolson, but you'll hear him in a minute doing those words. Now, this plot is very simple, very Jewish. It was a struggle between the past and the present, father struggling against son, love and duty, parochialism and freedom. Now, Jake Rabinowitz rejects the tradition of his father, the cantor, by becoming a vaudeville entertainer and taking up with a Gentile woman. Now, by rejecting the traditions of his cantor father, he rejects the old world for the new, a situation which many of the audience, whether they be Jewish or not, could identify with. He eventually reconciles to the old world values as he returns to his heritage to chant Kol Nidre when his father is dying. Now, audiences were spellbound by the new phenomena and gave a loud standing ovation each time the movie was shown. Audiences composed of immigrants and children, grandchildren of immigrants, identified with the story, much like in Fiddler on the Roof, with the same kind of universal appeal. So let's take a look at Al Jolson in The Jazz Singer.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you. You ain't heard nothing. You want to hear Toot Toot Tootsie? All right, hold on. Lou, listen. Play Toot Toot Tootsie. 3 choruses, you understand? And the 3rd chorus, I whistle. Now give it to him hard and heavy. Go right ahead. Toot Toot Tootsie, goodbye. Toot Toot Tootsie, don't cry. The little choo-choo train that takes me away from you. You don't know just how sad it makes me. Kiss me tootsie, and then, ow, do it over again. Watch for the mail, I'll never fail. If you don't get a letter, then you know I'm in jail. Hey, don't cry, Tootsie, don't cry. Kiss me, Tootsie, goodbye.
push away. Con me, bacchino sei, bacchino sei, bacchino sei, push away.
Now, the first all talking musical, meaning no silent placards, where you have the dialogue, where people really are talking to each other, was an all called Broadway Melody. Now, it was written by Naco Herb Brown and Arthur Freed. Now, Arthur Freed was Jewish, and he was the winner of an Oscar for Best Picture twice. He was also a producer. He won for American in Paris in 1951 and Gigi in 1958. And he produced and co-wrote the words for Singing in the Rain, the great musical of 1952. So let's take a look at a scene from this first all-talkie musical.
Hello, Jimmy. Say, listen, I've got the hottest song that ever pops in your life. Here's with that song. You got it? You got it? Da-da. Jimmy, if you get this crowd to keep quiet, I'll sing it for you. Harmony. Oh, fine. A little harmony. Now, listen, let's go to it. 1 and 2, you know. The second chorus, a little jazz, a little pep and everything, you know. Come on, I'll vamp until ready. Let's go. Go on, Herb. Da-da-da, that's it.
The chorus in F sharp.
There may be streets that have their sorrow, a smile today, a tear tomorrow. But there's a street that lives in glory. It always tells the same old story. Don't bring a frown to old Broadway. You've got a clown on Broadway. Your troubles there are out of style. From Broadway, your way, where to smile. A million lights, they flicker there. A million hearts beat quicker there. No skies are gray on the great white way. That's the Broadway melody. Don't bring a clown to old Broadway. You've got a clown on Broadway. Your troubles there are out of style. For Broadway, your way, where to smile. A million lights, they flicker there. A million hearts beat quicker there. No skies are gray on the great wide way. That's the Broadway melody. Hot dog.
If we can get that number, we're a cinch for the power.
All right. Hello, girls.
Hello, Eddie.
What?
Listen, Eddie, we'll take that song and smack it over for you. Sure.
Oh, no, not this song, babies. Zenfield's bought it for his new review. And the Mahoney sisters are coming from the West to put it over for me.
Oh, listen, Eddie. You're not going to waste a swell number like that on a small-time sister act, are you?
Nick's cracking, Rosie. Half of that sister team is going to be the future Mrs. Eddie Kearns.
Oh, wait a minute, Eddie. If you want to be made overnight, just give us a crack at that number.
Oh,
Come
no.
on.
No, positively no.
Oh, please.
Oh, I've got to get back to the hotel. The girls are waiting for me.
Now, the 1927 sound revolution, if you want to call it, changed the movie industry. Movement, action was now restrained by the noisy motored camera, which needed to be in a box, which what they called a sweat box. And the reason they needed this noisy motorized camera is because unlike silent movies, which you could have the visual frames of any number of frames per second, the movie with sound had to have 24 frames per second to look smooth and to look like continuity of movement. Now that meant that all the musical shots were static and almost looked as if you were looking at a stage from your seat in a theater. Although in theater, you could even move your head from one side of the stage to the other. In a movie, the early movies, you couldn't do that. You noticed in the example that you just saw about Broadway Melody, you saw that they were just standing there singing. Now, the other thing that changed was that silent actors' voices were not always compatible to talkies. Think of Singing in the Rain, where you had the problem with the diva whose voice was so high and didn't fit in with her cinematic persona. So stage actors became the demand. Thus, vaudevillians for movies and for comedy and musicals became the rage. So as sound became the advent of sound, we had the advent of sound on film, which became the industry standard. Now, the other problem with talkies, it cost a lot of money, more money than a silent movie to produce. It also cost more money to market sound movies and to upgrade theaters in order to show movies. And this was gave the Jewish studio heads who came into prominence in around 1912 to 1915, gave them more power and more control over the movies, over the finances, and they continued this influence for over 50 years more. Now, this gave rise to Jewish movie moguls in the various movie studios, and it gave rise also to this studio system, which we'll talk about maybe next week. And these were the moguls. To a man, they were Jewish. Now, they usually came from modest to poor incomes, and they were usually exceptionally industrious as youths. And many came from retail trades, and particularly the garment industry. And I'd like to point out that Samuel Goldwyn, whose name was not Goldwyn, was Goldfish, was a glove salesman in Gloversville, New York, which was right near where I lived in Utica. Now, they controlled the industry and not only produced the movies, and they also took over theaters and the talent agencies that linked the studios to and the theaters and distribution and production. They had a monopoly on movies. Now, an example of mogul control. Now, it's supposedly common knowledge that with the talkies, John Gilbert, his career suddenly declined because his voice didn't quite match his screen image. Well, the truth be told, Louis B. Mayer of MGM wanted him out. He wanted him out for a number of reasons, one of which was his $1.5 million contract, yearly contract. That was very, very much money in the early 1930s. And so, because Mayer wanted him out, MGM gave him poor roles, fewer roles, and no PR. Now, critics say that his voice was as good as many other screen stars, such as Conrad Nagel, who MGM thought was wonderful. Now, in the all-star musical comedy called The Hollywood Review of 1929, John Gilbert and Norma Shearer played the balcony scene from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, first as written, then followed with a slang rendition of the scene. Now, the comic effect served as a spell, the bad impression produced by Gilbert's original stilted delivery. Now, please judge his voice for yourself in this clip with Norma Shearer from the Hollywood Review. And this movie, by the way, was produced by the Jewish wonderkind, Irving Thalberg.
Julie, baby, I'm gaga about you. No kidding, honey, your teeth are like pearls. Your eyes are like diamonds and your lips like rubies.
You talk like a pawnbroker.
No, on the level, honest. You're the pansies in my garden, the cream in my mocha and java, the berries in my pie.
You're certainly playing a pretty symphony for my ears. And I've got to admit, you're very easy on the eyes, too. I've had plenty of balcony bees buzzing about me, but you're just about the cookies to me, boyfriend.
By the way, this movie was shot in color. Now, the Jewish moguls were afraid to acknowledge their Jewishness. They were afraid of anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic backlash from Middle America for films if the main character was Jewish. Jewish actors could be too Jewish or have a Jewish name. I'm sorry for the typo. They could not be too Jewish or have a Jewish name. They still employed Jews in front of the camera and behind the scenes as directors, producers, costume designers, writers, and composers. Now, with their rise, with sound especially, there was decline in Jewish-themed pictures and fewer depictions of Jews. Now, this gave rise to a Yiddish film industry, and it started around 1912 with the rise of immigration and the rise of Jewish studio head. And these were Yiddish films in Yiddish by Yiddish filmmakers, and most of them were in dialogue, Yiddish dialogue, and often Yinglish. Now, there were about 130 full-length films and 30 short ones that were produced between 1911 and 1940. And during the golden age of Yiddish film, 1936 to 1939, more than 24 films opened in New York City, where the most Jews in America lived at that time. Now, the films captured the language and lifestyle, as well as the values, dreams, and the myths of the world of Yiddish culture. Now, these films, mit sound, MOS, some mit-out sound, some with sound that should be, immortalized some of the greats of the Yiddish theater. Now, some of these were Molly Picon, Celia Adler, Herschel Bernardi, Moshe Oisha, and Lila Lee, who starred with Rudolph Valentino in Blood and Stands in 1922 and returned to the East in 1926 to make Broken Hearts with Maurice Schwartz in Broken Hearts with a Yiddish film. Now, Yiddish musical films were as popular with audiences as melodramas, and these included the following:
Yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, 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 come lay yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, and play little sign. Yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, 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 come lay yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, and play little sign. To-dee-dum-ay, bay, a-la-nee-dee-may-dee love, a play of serenade-may-dee-love, a play of sa-ba-ba-bum, la-ba-ba-bum, la-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, my bay, a-la-nee-dee-may-dee-love, a play of serenade-may-dee-love, a play of sa-ba-ba-bum, la-ba-ba-bum, la-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, 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 only yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, and play little sign. Yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, 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 only yum, diddle-dee-diddle-dee-dum, lady-dick, and play little sign. Yo.
Oh, vai o meu das do.
Sem sossegar.
A bissel zin, a bissel regen, a ruhig aus dem Kopf zu legen, a wir sind, können glücklich sein. A schich, a sock, a kleid und Loftes, ein Kästchen, a drei, vier Loftes, a wir sind, können glücklich sein. Die Luft ist frei vor jeden Gleier, die Sinn, sie scheint vor jeden eine Murmelgerei. Bist du frei, da bist du lach, na mu mit Freund, da schnappst du mach, na wie gesinnt, können glücklich sein. Einer sich das Schier ist, einer sich Gebier ist, einem in die ganze Welt. Einer meint, das ganze Glück hängt nur auf dem Geld. Soll mal siechen, soll mal kriechen, nur ich tracht von mir. Ich darf es auf Kapur ist, weil das Glück steht am Tier. A bissl Sinn, a bissl Regen, a ruhig aus dem Kopf zu legen, a wir sind, können glücklich sein. A schich, a sock, a kleid und Loftes, ein Kästchen, a drei, vier Loftes, a wir sind, können glücklich sein. Verliebt, schweigt mir neueste Link. Oi, heiß ist heiß, mit euch zu halten, als man ist verliebt, lust man auf den Kalten. Oi, weh mir Wasser ist doch nass, heinte kein Englisch ist sich leben wie ein Hint auf dem Gas. Tinkel, tinkel, wie ein Keiler, als man ist verliebt, kriegt man linken Fehler. Oi, gewalt, de Galle. A bige sind, können glücklich sein.
Now, Yiddish films almost totally disappeared after World War II due to the Holocaust and the linguistic acculturation of Jewish immigrants, although new films, new pictures are still being made sporadically, including Hester Street with Yiddish. And these are just some of the older movies. Now, here are some coming attractions. Ralph Ringner, who was born Reichenthal, wrote Love in Bloom, then you will remember Love and Bloom from Jack Benny. June and January, Blue Hawaii, Elvis Presley. And of course, Thanks for the Memories, which is from the big broadcast of 1938.
Hello, Cleo.
What's the matter? Little man had a busy day.
This is no time for wisecracks from you or anyone else. $50,000.
Well, what's $50,000?
I'm going out and eat worms with salt and pepper and stuff.
Oh, wait a minute. Thank you.
Say, keep them coming and give her the cherries, will you?
Thanks for remembering. Say, make that an extra big one so I can catch up with him, huh? You know, Buzz, I cleaned up an old trunk yesterday, and I found that green tie of yours. You know, the one with the stripes?
Really?
You know something, Buzz?
What, dear?
I kind of miss your singing in the bathtub.
Good old bathtub.
Good old singing.
I thank you so much.
Thanks for the memory of China's funny walls, transatlantic calls.
That weekend at Niagara when we hardly saw the falls.
How lovely that was.
Thank you.
Thanks for the memory of lunch from 12 to 4, sunburn at the shore, that pair of gay pajamas that you bought and never wore.
Say, by the way, what did happen to those pajamas? Huh?
Letters with sweet little secrets that couldn't be put in a day wire.
Too bad it all had to go haywire. That's life, I guess. I love your dress.
Do you?
It's pretty.
Thanks for the memory of faults that you forgave, rainbows on a wave,
And stockings in the basin when a fella Darling, I know. I know, dear.
So that's the end until next time. If there aren't any questions, there we go.
There we go. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay. So the chat is enabled if you want to ask your question, or if you want to just unmute yourself and ask Lois directly.
Where can you see these films? A lot of them, you can go to YouTube, do a search either on YouTube or there's also a place called archives.org that have a lot of old movies, many silent movies. They're some of the, if you'll notice, a lot of them were redone by the Jewish Film Archives, and those are for sale, but the Jewish Film Archives also has a website that you can see clips from.
Was that Fanny Bryce with the Bob Hope? Who was that?
No, that her name was Shirley Ross, R-O-S-S.
Yeah. I thought it was Dorothy Lamour.
Yeah, I had to go look that one up myself. We always know Bob Hope. We don't always know who he's singing with. Yeah. Again, you know, the musicals really evolved from that static presentation, the presentation that we saw in Broadway Melody, and we'll talk about it next time. You know, I mean, it was just there was a clip that I had of Joan Crawford doing the Charleston, and it's done. The camera's standing there and she's doing the Charleston. She wants to move all over the place, but she can't. She's just, you know, she's forced to stay there because of the camera. Somebody else? Oh, two people have their hands raised. I can't see who. Someone?
Okay, I'm just wondering, Lois.
Oh, wait a minute.
Lois, I don't know.
One at a time. Sheila?
Can you?
One of you
Yes.
go first. One of you. I don't care. I'm sorry.
Okay, I've just heard over the weekend, they've opened a museum for the Academy of Motion Pictures
A
and
while
have
ago,
not
yeah.
mentioned,
Yeah, go
have
ahead.
not mentioned any of the Jewish people who founded the theaters and the studios. I
Well,
found that unbelievable.
well, you know,
How could you start a museum
you can't.
without?
Now, I'm not defending the Academy. I mean, I found the Academy controlled by these very Jewish men. The Academy was started, the Motion Picture Academy was started by the producers to promote their films. And the Academy Awards were nothing more than self-congratulatory way, you know. So, but to defend them with a lot of these men were not very pleasant to their stock of actors, to their writers, to everyone. They were taskmasters, slave drivers, if you will. The casting couch is more than just a legend. And perhaps that's why they didn't want to bring forth that. I don't know. I find it difficult I believe in studying everything, the good and the bad. I did not bring up the Hays Code, which would prevent a lot of those movies that we saw early days of talkies. After 1934, we wouldn't have seen those same movies. We wouldn't have seen the Fred Astaire, Ginger Roger movies as they were done. We wouldn't have seen some of the Busby Berkeley movies because of the Hays Code, which these producers put on, you know, originated themselves. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It is a shanda. Now, who else had their?
Yeah, the people at the museum said that they will do something later on to mention all the people that started the film industry. They realized that they didn't do the right thing, and they said that they were going to correct it. Whether they will or not is another question.
Well, it was actually a non-Jewish person who mentioned about how could they have a museum without mentioning the founders. So it's like, to me, it's an insult, because at least acknowledge the contribution, and maybe as an asterisk that there were flawed human beings.
Terry, who's next? Terry, was that?
I just wanted to ask you about the reviews. What was did they do one ever? Was this like a talent show every year? Like that was the review of 1938 that we saw.
Oh, they had a series of movies. You know, they had the big broadcast of 1931 and 34, not every year. And what they did was they usually took famous radio personalities like George Burns and Gracie Allen were in a couple of them. And what they did was just play themselves or play their radio characters in these movies. Gracie Allen was wonderful in some of these. There was also the Great Broadcast. What else? There were a whole series of, W.C. Fields was in one of in a couple of them. It was they did have series like that. Yeah. Judy, did you have your hand up? Judy Kenter?
No, I put my hand down because I was going to say the same thing that somebody else said, that they're going to have a special exhibit.
Thank
that they
you.
realized.
Thank you. Thank you. Who else?
And thank you. I'll just say thank you, though.
Oh,
for taking
thank
the
you.
opportunity.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I must be a wonderful teacher if I've taught everything that you ever wanted to know and were afraid to ask here. Maybe you're just afraid to ask. Yes. Rima?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you're going to bring up Sophie Tucker, or how do you feel about her?
So now Sophie Tucker did a movie, but it wasn't in this per se. She did a short in 1930, and it didn't quite fit in here. The other one who did shorts until the late 30s was
Robert Benchley.
I beg your pardon?
Robert Benchley.
Yes, but there was the other one was Fanny Bryce. She did shorts, hysterical musical shorts, but it just didn't quite fit into this presentation. Susan, you have
Yeah, I was wondering, I put in the chat, did you put, I saw the picture and the name Carl LeMay. We saw a program a few months ago with my synagogue about him, and I had never heard of him before. Do you include any more information about what he did with bringing people over to save?
Well, I don't know him, what he did personally. I only know that of the founding fathers, if I'm going to use that term, he was the least objectionable, and he was the one that didn't last as long because he was older when it started. He was paramount. Am I right? I
think so. Then
I'm sorry.
He was Paramount bought him
Universal.
out. Yeah.
Universal. Thank you. Universal.
Okay.
And as I said, he didn't last as long as any because he was older. Yes, Susan J.
Thanks, Lois. Listen, my question is, wasn't the Hays Code, wasn't it either a censorship for, like sexual contact or
No, it was everything. It was everything. There was a section of the code that says you could, and it sounds very modern if you really, it could have been done today, that you could not insult someone's nationality or religion. That clergymen could not be presented as comical. It was definitely sexual. I mean, sexual. You couldn't show the belly button. You shouldn't show too much cleavage. If it was a love scene, you had to have 3 feet on the floor between a man and a woman, 3 feet on the floor. A kiss could only last about 10 seconds. I mean, there was a whole list of everything. Criminals, you couldn't glorify a criminal. You couldn't, crime didn't pay. You couldn't show a murder on the film.
But wasn't, but didn't the moguls hate that?
No, they put it in.
Oh.
They put it in.
But they were
put it in.
coerced.
They were
Oh.
afraid. If you go look at, do a search about the Hays Code, you'll come up with the fact that it's initially called the Motion Picture Producers Code. And it started, Hays was not the original person who administered it. It started in the 1920s because there's a lot of scandal in Hollywood. You had drug overdoses that the moguls covered up. You had
Sexuality.
you had women having children and having it hushed up. You had homosexuality. You had all this stuff, and it was all hushed up. But there was an undercurrent of discontent in the hinterlands, in the Midwest. Sin City, they called, Hollywood Sin City before they called New York Sin
Yes.
City. And so that's why they initiated the code. And it was the producers. It was the bottom line. They were afraid not only were they going to lose money in the Midwest, but what happens when you export these movies to England, who had a very strict morality code at the time for movies. So that it was the bottom line. Anybody else? Anything else? Anybody else? Yes? No? Okay. So I won't say the same time as next week, or next week. It isn't next week, it's next month. And I promise to be more on time than I was. So, Debbie?
Thanks, Lois. And I'm looking for the exact date. Rabbi, maybe you have that, so we can.
I think it's
28th.
The 28th. Thank
The
you.
28th.
It's the
Very good.
28th.
Okay, the 28th. And that registration will come out in Women's League Week, as it always does, and the information about it. And we hope that you will join us for the next series, the next episode of this series. We want to thank Lois very much. And if you have questions in between, Lois, maybe you want to put your email in the chat so you can prepare. It's lsilverman@wlcj.org. Maybe if you want to put that in, Lois. If you have questions, Lois can probably answer it in the next episode. It's a lot of fun to be together, and it's a cold afternoon in most of the places in North America. So it's warm in here, it's warm on Zoom, and it's warm with all of you. We like to say that Women's League is alive and well, and we're sisters journeying together, biyachad. And I hope all of you enjoyed Lois's class today. It really was a class. You taught us, Lois, and we hope that we'll see you soon in many of our other programs and events, and especially next month on the next episode. Bye-bye.